Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, my God. Let's just jump right into it. First off, I'm not going to have the latest information on the military plane crash that just happened outside of San Diego. That's going to be Mike Train is keeping an eye on that while I'm chatting, and you'll get updates at the bottom of the hour, top of the hour. That's the WBAP newsroom. If I get anything, a good report that finally gets typed up, I'll review it on a break and share it with you. So that's some breaking news. Some of the other things going on are we had a True Social post from President Trump today where it sounded like he had a productive call with Vladimir Putin of Russia, and they're going to steal the next election again. I'm kidding. They were talking, no, too soon. They're talking about settling things in the Ukraine. We have that going on. We had DOGE that was uncovering some things that I think you'd definitely be interested about in some of the agencies that they've been going through. Social Security, a big one. We have a nice flare-up in a very important debate about birthright citizenship, and I have a ton of funny sound bites to bring you. But let's bring in my first guest. Donald Kimball's back on with Young Voices. Welcome back to the James Show, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, overall, I think people on Team Red like the idea of DOGE, and it's been my observation that, Donald, I think about half of our Team Blue brethrens are okay with it. They're just not the vocal ones right now.
Yeah, I think that there is maybe a more reasonable contingent of people on the left who think that there are definite areas of waste that need to be addressed, and maybe they don't. Even if they don't outright support DOGE because they say things like, well, they don't like the sort of take a hatchet to the whole thing. They want like individual line item cuts, find what's reasonable, whatever it is. I think there is at least a good portion of people there who at least appreciate the spirit of DOGE, even if they have individual problems. Of course, to those people, I would say the problem is when you look at line by line, everyone justifies their own spending. Everyone can justify their own waste. And that's why you need to take a hatchet at these things. But that's a reasonable disagreement. And I do think there's more people than you might tell from online speech, at least, that agree with that kind of general principle of cutting waste in government.
So how much of the money uncovered by DOGE is going from the taxpayers of America to different media outlets? Because if all this is true, I mean, that means a big chunk of what's called the legacy media or mainstream media is just a paid-off facade.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that were uncovered. There was that report about USAID giving money to Politico. And, I'd seen some, because I always try to stay informed with what people who are obviously not going to agree with, everything that comes out from DOGE. I try to read up on their rebuttals and things. And I saw, I think it was Ryan Grimm had made this video talking about how, the money going to Politico specifically wasn't only from USAID, it was from all of government, and it was for their, big subscription service. But of course, at that point, to me, I don't think it's a big, shocking revelation if it's coming from USAID or the entire government. It's still our taxpayer dollars going to this program that they offer. I think it's like a pro subscription that's like tens of thousands of dollars. That's clearly just a corporate and government buy-off mechanism.
Yeah, it's like a luxury box at the Cowboy Stadium.
What you mean? You weren't going to shopping for your $10,000 Politico subscription to keep up on the news, James?
Well, it's also doing that? Kind of transparent bribery, because it doesn't cost Politico anything to provide more subscriptions or the bigger subscriptions. It's a virtual product. It's a digital product. So, the replication is infinite. And so they didn't actually have to do anything for all this extra money they got. And look, if you're in government, why don't you buy one subscription and y'all can just share the login with the rest of government, right? It's very clearly them just giving money to Politico. And now once Politico is dependent on big government to stay in business, then necessarily their content will skew toward big government.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And to me, I think that obviously I want the waste and the fraud to stop. But even if this revelation was the only thing that came out of all of this, I think that's a good thing. Because once we can start sort of destroying this false narrative about the unbiased journalist that has sort of pervaded the American ethos for so long, I think that people will start to understand that everyone has a bias. Everyone has a presupposition. Everyone has someone that they're going to lean towards. And in this case, it's blatantly obvious that it's the government because they're the ones funding the bills. But people will say things like, well, I can't trust independent media because they're taking sponsors from this or that, or they're going to have their own personal opinions. That's true of everyone, particularly the corporate media. They're the worst aggressors, but they've gotten by with the most sort of grace given to them in this respect. And so I think outing things like this, even if the money kept flowing, which I hope it doesn't, but even if it did, at least the credibility is damaged in the eyes of the American people, which I think is a good thing.
Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to play Elon Musk uncovering some things they found at Social Security, including several people who are around 150 years old. That's a miracle, Donald.
It's medical technology getting better every day. Just trust the science, James.
Right. Yeah. And look, I understand that maybe someone just fat fingered a birthday in wrong. And so he's really only 50 years old and he's registered as 150 or whatever the case may be. It could just be clerical error. It could just be, a human messed up, but it's still in there. And can we at least clear that up? And how long do is there no mechanism by which we discover and fix these errors? So some serious questions being raised over there, but I think we all knew that there's just piles and piles of fraud in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
It makes me think of the story about the government employee in France who stopped showing up to work one day and was getting paychecks for years and years, and they only discovered he'd stopped showing up to work when he won an award for how long he'd been at the agency. And so these kinds of things do happen. You're right. And so at the very least, the DOGE needs to be that mechanism. There needs to be these audits. And this is true of every company, every organization. As long as you've started running to some degree and you've been in practice for any period of time, you're going to get comfortable in certain rhythms and things are going to slip and it's going to be uncomfortable. But you need to have those reevaluations, those internal looks and make sure, am I still doing things right? Are we clean here? Have someone outside coming in, looking in. That's healthy for every organization and the government in particular, since that is the only true monopoly we have in our country.
I hope I can get to the audio today, but there was a federal worker that was fired by DOGE, and she was on CNN being interviewed, and she's like, it's just not right to have someone have to work every day but worry if they're going to have their job tomorrow. It's like, that's how all of us live out in the real world, ladies. The most normal thing in the world. Donald Kimball, where do they find you outside of WBAP, sir?
KimballDonald.com or Kimball Donald on X. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, there he is, Donald Kimball. Coming up next, you're going to hear some of the revelations from DOGE and how your money's just been thrown down a toilet or set on fire, or whatever metaphor you want to use. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. This is like when you're a kid and it's Easter and you know there's a bunch of Easter eggs out in the yard and you're just goofing around trying to find them. And I don't know, did you grow up in like a neighborhood with like a little yard in a subdivision? Because I grew up on a horse ranch where we had like a barn and a horse trailer and a hay barn, wheelbarrows and all kinds of tractors and stuff where you could hide stuff. And this has that same feeling where you just walking around and you know you're going to find a bunch of good stuff. I mean, you know there's going to be some Peeps involved. You know there's going to be some Reese's involved, maybe some of the fun-size M&Ms or one of them tiny little Three Musketeers. You know what you're about to find, but it's still so exciting to find it. And so that's what it feels like for just going through the DOGE reports. You know, I spend a lot of time preparing a show. I do a show. I have to put up the podcast and some social media posts and record commercials. And then when I get done with work, I can't wait to go see what DOGE has uncovered today while I was busy. So let's go and see where the big finds were yesterday. And I don't know, should that be the DOGE theme? Because I also kind of like the idea of AC/DC being the DOGE theme because the engineer's funny name. All right, let's go see what Big Balls and the rest of the team has uncovered in the last 24 hours. Elon Musk did a press conference very rudely during the James Show yesterday. Could you do it either before or after the James Show to not distract people? But they dug into Social Security, and you knew there was going to be a lot of skeletons in that closet. Just how bad is it?
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous. One of the two.
Yes. So, you knew there was going to be stuff like that. Anytime you have a database with 300 million people involved and you have how many people are getting Social Security checks now? 80 million or something ridiculously huge like that. Of course, there's going to be some mistakes in there. But the point is they don't have any algorithm or bot or spider. That's kind of a technical database term that goes through and says, is anybody here 150 years old? Let's flag that and make sure it's legit. Is there no fraudulent catch system? Certainly doesn't sound like it. Again, I'm not faulting the fact that there's a check that's going out under questionable circumstances. But for some of these other checks, they don't even have contact or personal information. And the problem that's always going to arise with these government programs is they have no incentive to catch fraud. It's not like they're going to go out of business. It's not like they're going to lose to their competition. Oh, this other company's more efficient at providing a retirement pension from money stolen from the next generation. No, you don't have any reason to be efficient there. And so the Department of Government Efficiency, this is exactly what they're looking for. But here's the worst thing I heard yesterday, is when you talk about how government moves at the speed of government and the private sector's ripping and roaring and adopting the new technology and government's kind of dragging behind. How far behind do you think they are in some of these departments? What about 1955-ish in their technology?
And we're told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we're told that the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And what do you mean a mine? There's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way.
This is almost like a stand-up routine. Like if he was in a nightclub where the lights were dim and people had a 2-drink minimum, people would be laughing like every other sentence that he found. He's like, it's in a mine shaft. No, I mean literally a mine shaft. You should have heard that. It's just dumbfounded press in there, but I could put that in there and it would sound like I could. And let's do that Seinfeld bit. The doom 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 doom. But they are using the technology because this place was built in 1955 that he's talking about, and they haven't updated it since. So they're not even. Remember when we were laughing a few months ago about the terrorists that got blowed up with beepers? We're like, who's still using technology from the 90s? Are they still watching Saved by the Bell? Huh? Or are they wearing a hypercolor shirt? Are they tight rolling the bottom of their jeans? Listening to Snow and Former or whatever. But this is worse than that. We're behind the beeper terrorists that got blown up. Oops, sorry about that. They don't even have a speak and spell yet. A-E-N. They're behind this technology. It doesn't spell anything, people. I'm just being funny. That is so bad. Look, if you're in the car with the Gen Xer, look, his eyes are glazed over. Because like Texas Instruments, they use these weird beeps to like implant messages into our head. It's like kill the Malaysian prime minister or whatever. Texas Instruments, they're probably going to have some sort of sequence of beeps that they let off, and we're all just going to zombie attack. Gen X is just going to be activated one day, but they're not even to the level of a speak and spell. Like they don't even, and the funny part is Elon said we could get rid of this and use pretty much any other system and it would be more efficient. And he's right. You could use a fax machine. That's at least technology from the 80s. You could use speak and spell would be a vast improvement. The flip phone that you had, the little Razor flip phone in 2001, or the little Nokia one with the thumb, the thumb keyboard. Like anything would be better than this. Like the only thing worse than this is if you used a telegraph. Maybe I think that would be the only thing that would be less efficient than this. But I don't know where you can even get a telegraph these days. You could use a Commodore 64 and it would blow this system out of the water. So how bad is it? I don't think you're surprised. I think that this is just as bad as you expected. What's your favorite DOGE discovery so far? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to check on the border on the James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services, joining us on the James Show. And for those of you who are sweating the idea of, oh man, I need to put my house on the market, or I need to go get a house, this is the guy you call because he can take care of all the complexities that come with buying or selling a house. But Bob, how is the market around here doing? Are people buying yet?
I don't know if it's because we have a great new president again, finally, but it has turned around like on a dime. People that were holding back, and you can't blame them. He raised the interest rates 23 times in 2.5 years. That's not happening anymore. People are getting it, so our phone's ringing off the hook. We've had one of your callers called in yesterday about noon. I could not even get back to him until about 5:30. Everybody's been busy, so I don't know why. God bless Trump, but it's going to be a heck of a fun year.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. And remember, if you're buying a house now, you're going to marry the house, but date the rate. Even if the rate is higher than you were hoping, then whenever it goes down, you can just refi. Go ahead and get in the house now. Go ahead and call Bob Lavelle. Get the process started, because you'll be happy you did, especially now that the economy's heating up a little bit.
It is. And again, it really is as simple as to get started. Find out where you stand on qualifying. Call 292-392-9595. They'll get you set up.
972-392-9595, 972-392-9595. Home Marketing Services, Bob Lavelle. Thank you very much, bud.
Thanks, James.
Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What's your favorite DOGE discovery so far? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Call in, let's talk about it, let's have a good chat, and just enjoy the process, because I don't know how long this streak is going to go, but I'm liking what I see so far. My next guest is a guy who helps us keep an eye on the border, because he's a retired ICE agent, Victor Avila, back on the James Show. Welcome, sir. Good to have you back.
Great to be back with you, James.
All right, so I saw, or I should say I heard a report that the Honduran embassy or consulate, I should say, in Texas, I think over in Harris County in Houston, they're backlogged on appointments because people were voluntarily trying to go back home and they're asking for help. And I thought, whoa, that's not something a lot of people predicted.
I actually was one of them saying that we were going to have initially some slow numbers, but those numbers of self-deportations were going to increase, and they have been. Honduran nationals, even people from Venezuela are wanting to go back. There's several issues. One, now all of a sudden they don't have the money to go back. Second, they don't have an ID to go back, because if they're in the interior of the country, guess what? They need an ID to get on an airplane. Well, they didn't have one before, but the Biden administration allowed them to get on airplanes, millions of them without identification, something you and I can't do. But now that we're actually enforcing the law, they can't get on an airplane because they actually don't have a valid identification. So we've got certain issues that we have to work out to, be able to allow them to come back to the border.
Okay, so that changes the math, though, because we were told, if you're going to import 11 million people, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. But if half of them are going to go home on their own, then that's not really going to cost us as much, is it?
It's not. I'm not sure about half, but I'm sure there's going to be a good chunk of them wanting to go. And I think as we progress, I'm getting a lot of calls. People, there's a lot of fear mongering. We're afraid. If you haven't committed a crime and you're in this country legally, you have nothing to worry about. I don't care where you're from. But they happen to be, their own communities are instilling this fear factor that they're going to come pick all of you up. And even if you're a permanent resident alien, you're a green card holder, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. That's not who we want. As a matter of fact, get out of the way, because we're here to pick up that bad guy. And yes, if you're illegal without any criminal history next to the bad guy, you're going to go too. So if you're in that category, you have to start making arrangements to avoid 15, 20 federal agents coming to a neighborhood near you to come and pick you up. To avoid that, do yourself a favor and avoid that trauma of your family and self-deport yourself. Another thing that we want, and I know Tom Holman has said this very, very clearly, give us access to the jails. Give ICE access to the jails, so we even avoid even going out to the community to begin with. Let us pick them up at the time when they get arrested for whatever crime. Those are the ones that we want, and we get them right then and there in a secure location with a lot less personnel, because now they're adding IRS agents to these task forces. And this is the surge, and I predicted this surge many years ago. I put it as part of a solution in my book, and I think this surge is probably sustainable for the next 18 to 24 months. The operations will continue for the entire administration time for Trump, the whole 4 years. It's not going to stop. But this surge of other agencies, DEA, FBI, IRS, U.S. Marshals helping HSI and ICE pick up illegal aliens, it's not that sustainable. They also have other investigations to conduct. So right now, everybody's on board, everybody's on the same team, and you're going to see these numbers increase.
All right, so what's going on at the border? I've seen reports that crossings are down. Is that what you can back up?
Absolutely. They plummeted. But guess what's coming in? The people that are sneaking in undetected. So we have two types of gotaways. The ones that we actually see, and a camera, Border Patrol detects them, there's a sensor, but they just couldn't get them for whatever reason. They count that person. And then we have the one that we didn't count at all because we never saw them, and they were smuggled. Sometimes we get an indication of how big those smuggling ventures or smuggling numbers are because of the stash houses that we discover already in the U.S., in El Paso, Laredo, and the stash houses have been increasing even before President Trump, they had, I think the cartels, they started making preparations and say they shut down the border. We better have a way to sneak our drugs, our fentanyl, and our people in. So it's getting much harder for them. The cartels becoming very, very uneasy and anxious on the other side, and so it's going to come to a point, James, where it's going to grind together, and something's going to have to give. And our military is ready for that interaction if the military, or I should say, if the Mexican cartels try to act on any of this violently.
All right. Thank you very much for the border update, Victor. Appreciate your time on the James Show.
Yes, sir.
Well, more positive information there. Your comments, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, are we seeing an end to the war in Ukraine? We had a positive tweet, or I should say Truth Social post from Trump, and I'll read it to you next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Sports fans, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Basketball fans, this is your time to shine, because when you want to add a little bit more spice to the sports that you're already watching, Prize Picks can do that for you. Like Steph Curry tonight. He's going to be playing here at Dallas. 27.5 points. Will he get more or less? All you do is make a lineup of 2 to 6 picks like that. And you can choose the flex play, so you don't have to get them all right to win some money. But you can take that knowledge, that expertise that you have in your head from being a fan already, and turn it into some little extra spending money there. So download the Prize Picks app if you want to try it out. With 50 of my dollars, use promo code WBAP with that first $5 play. That promo code will get you $50 that you can play with to figure things out and have a little bit of fun on us. Download the Prize Picks app, promo code WBAP for $50 with your first $5 play. So basketball fans, get out there, make it happen. Hockey fans, you're in on this too. Prize Picks, run your game. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. You know, the funny part about DOGE is so many of the criticisms that are being thrown at it, I see not as flaws, but features. Jerry Nadler just came up with a list of grievances, and I not only did that not bother me, I supported all of that. Listen to this.
As we speak, Elon Musk and his band of near teenage accomplices are systematically working their way through the executive branch, knocking down agency after agency, while undermining the rule of law. And
wait. He says that like it's a bad thing, but like this is kind of what I hear when he's talking. Here, just back it up just a little bit.
Are systematically working their way through the executive branch, knocking down agency after agency.
Knock them down.
While undermining the rule of law and shredding the Constitution along the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really shredded there. Please tell me more about what he's
Musk
cutting.
and his team have unprecedented access to our most sensitive and personal data. They have gained access.
What? How's he supposed to audit the federal budget without having access to the databases? I mean, it makes no sense. And how is it unprecedented? Who had access to them yesterday? Well, then it's not unprecedented, is it? Anyway.
To extremely sensitive tax information at the IRS.
Sensitive. Ooh.
Highly restricted government records on millions of federal employees
So
and their families
sensitive.
from the Office of Personnel Management, and personal data related to health insurance plans, workplace safety and health investigations, child labor, and more.
Is that really sensitive too, Jerry?
And this is just what we've learned through news articles, because all of these actions have been taken without any transparency to the American people.
Yeah, he just has a website where they're putting up their daily log of what they found and and recommendations they made. It's hilarious, man. And then they turn around and they say, well, if they don't stop this, then we're just going to shut down the government.
Because the Democrats are in the minority, so you have only so much leverage. Have you all essentially made it clear to Mike Johnson that until they allow you all to subpoena big balls and the normalized Indian hate guy, at least subpoena them or subpoena Elon Musk, no votes on the budget? No votes, no Democratic votes at all to keep the government open.
Oh, God, now they're going to threaten us with a shutdown. Now you're just talking dirty. Now you're doing this on purpose, right? You're saying things you know that'll turn us on. You're threatening to shut down the government because we're cutting the government too much. Do you understand? That makes sense to me, but does she not realize like the logical paradox that's coming out of her mouth right now? You think that would really bother us if you shut down the government? Oh my goodness, this is the things we've been dreaming about. And so then on top of this, we have Social Security being put under a microscope. We have the Department of Education, which is maybe circling the drain here in the last few days that it has to infect our education system with terrible ideas and terrible influence. We have all kinds of other things going on. But on the foreign policy front, there was a post on Truth Social this morning, 8:53 a.m. Donald Trump says, I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Oh my God, he's bestest friends with dictators. Shut up. We discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, and various other subjects. We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people, and we likewise lost so many. We each talked about the strength of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia/Ukraine. President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe very strongly in it. We agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something which I will be doing right now. I've asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, and National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, Ambassador and Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, to lead the negotiations, which I feel strongly will be successful. Millions of people have died in a war that would not have happened if I were president, but it did happen, so it must end. No more lives should be lost. I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort with respect to the call and for the release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House. I believe this effort will lead to a successful conclusion. Well, things just keep getting better and better, don't they? Wow. We're just cutting government waste, and we're firing parasites that have been leeching off the taxpayers for God knows how long. We're taking care of Gaza. We've got the Panama Canal back. We renamed it the Gulf of America. They're looking at extending our tax cuts, and now peace between Russia and Ukraine. How could someone complain about this? What could the complaint possibly be? How dare you bring peace to these war zones? How dare you get rid of wasted taxpayer dollars? How dare you trim the government back to its constitutional bounds? I don't know what the criticism is. Actually, I do know. I've got a bunch of sound bites that I'm going to be playing for you, so stick around for that. There's a tour coming that you may be interested in. It's called the I Want My 80s Tour. Listen to this. Rick Springfield, John Waite, Wayne Chung, and Paul Young. You can get tickets at livenation.com, or if you want to get the I Want My 80s tour, it's going to be at the Music Hall at Fair Park July 20th. Text the word Rick to 800-288-9227. You'll be entered in our contest for a chance to win a pair of tickets. Rick, 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next on The James Show, I do have more sound bites, including a beautiful song they made up about DOGE, the critics. Actually, it's a terrible song. You'll hear that. And then also we'll talk to Bankrate economy analyst about what's going on with your money. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Welcome back to the big show. We are having a station event. Well, technically it's for our sister station, KLIF. You can hear them over on 570 AM. But one of the shows there, Brian Kilmeade, you know him from Fox and Friends. Well, he also does the mid-morning show over on our sister station. He's coming back to town. He was here last summer, and he's going to be February 26th at Community Beer. CommunityBeer.com. It's at Commonwealth and 35 here in Dallas. Just up 35 from downtown before you get to the 183 split. I think isn't it the last exit before that? Anyway, CommunityBeer.com if you need to find it. Or you can ask your phone. Your phone knows where it's at. But it's starting at 6 o'clock. And I don't have confirmation on this, but I know when he came in town last summer, they did a live broadcast. Then they broke into the programming, the regular programming. And then he hung out for a good hour or so afterwards, just talking to people, just being a cool guy. He had nothing else to do. If he's going to come all the way down here to meet some of the listeners who take time out of their day to come see him, I think he talked to everybody who stood around and waited for him to free up. So come on out. I know I'll be there, but you don't care about me. Miss Parker will be there. Hi, Miss Parker. Which is a big deal because she hadn't been to I don't think any of our public events yet. All right, my next guest is going to keep an eye on the economy for us. We have Sarah Foster on with Bankrate. Welcome back to the James Show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I know it's way too early to have a full set of data to make such big proclamations like this, but, you know, it's been 3 weeks. Would you say Trump 2.0 has been a net plus for the economy?
I think what we're seeing right now is that it's clear there were a few initiatives that we kind of expected were going to be put in place, or at least be a policy focus for President Donald Trump. And he certainly followed through, at least with the tariff kind of proposals. It's been a little bit different, though. And of course, viewers probably know just how hard it has been to really track whether anything would be implemented, whether it's just proposal or maybe a bargaining chip right now. You know, I think what we hear from economists in our surveys is that tariffs, although they are a way to target companies for seemingly unfair trading practices, and they're seen as a path towards stimulating manufacturing activity, all the economists that we survey mentioned in our latest forecast report that these tariffs could lead to higher prices that consumers see.
Right. So there's a push and pull there. Reduce the waste in government, the oversight, the regulations, the permits, and all that. I can see how that would be an economic plus, but increasing the cost of imported inputs, through tariffs could be a net negative. And then you throw in there, what you just mentioned, if they're going to be implemented or if it's just a negotiation tactic, that's not anything that you can quantify, but it, just generally speaking, uncertainty is something that can have, downward pressure on growth. So you can make a case either way. And that's why I feel like it's such an impossible question 3 weeks in to say if it's a net plus. But I think about 6 months, a year from now, we'll really have a good idea if these policies are working.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time to really see which policies play out and how they impact everyday households. Something I think that is really interesting to watch, though, is that we've heard from suppliers for weeks now at this point that even the mere threat of tariffs on some of our biggest trading partners has caused them to rethink supply chains, rethink where they're getting some of their imports, even rethinking where they want to potentially do business. So I think, even whether these tariffs come to fruition to the extent that President Trump has talked about, or whether he ends up going with something a little bit smaller here. I think some of the question here, though, is, how long we could still see just the threat of tariffs maybe impact manufacturing activity and business as well.
Well, what we've seen with the market performance and the economy as a whole, unemployment, when you take all this data in, do you think the Federal Reserve is going to continue lowering the rates throughout the year like they promised?
It's an open question. I mean, we're continuing to hear from Fed Chair Jerome Powell that the Fed is not in a hurry to cut interest rates. After that hotter than expected print in January came out, investors repriced some of their expectations to think that the Fed might be on hold until at least December of this year. Of course, the economy has surprised to the upside, and so has inflation. I think, the Fed doesn't look at just one individual report. They look at the bigger picture. But of course, this is the fourth month that inflation has increased. It's probably putting some Fed officials, at least in the camp of holding higher for longer, at least on some of these historically high interest rates.
Well, what's the expectation here for GDP growth here in the first quarter? Are people feeling generally positive? Do we have the early estimates out for what that could be?
Yeah, so a way that I really like to look is the Atlanta Fed has a really good view at GDP projections based on all of the different inputs that go into GDP. And as you know, it's the broadest scorecard of our economy. Lately, as we've seen that the economy has sort of slowed from that breakneck pace that we saw post-pandemic, it continued to gradually cool in 2024. We're expecting that, that first quarter print might come in at about 2.9%, which is still above that, longer run trend. But this is also just the second month within the first 3 months of the year. So we have a lot of data, a lot of time to really sit here and watch how this all plays out.
One more thing, credit card balances are setting records. Got any advice for people that are swimming in credit card debt?
Yeah, it's continuing to really impact, especially Americans who've been hit hardest by inflation. So we certainly empathize with so many Americans who feel like inflation, they just can't get ahead of it. I think my best advice here is to really look in and see what your options are for speeding up that debt repayment. Balance transfer cards right now on the market can give you an opportunity to pay toward that debt with 0% interest for up to 21 months. That's almost 2 years that you can make significant headway on your payments. That's really one of the first options I'd recommend for someone is to just get rid of that credit card debt as quickly as possible.
Well, I feel like we covered a lot of the economic topics. I think I got through everything on my notes. Sarah Foster, I'm glad you have all this info. Appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Sarah Foster from Bankrate. Coming up next, we have more protests scheduled for the area all across Texas and specifically here in North Texas. I'll give you some dates to know and how much of this is going to continue? Like, how long can they do this? Are they just going to do this for all 4 years or just while the deportations are happening? And how much of this is funded with your tax dollars? I'd be interested to see if we get all these cuts made in D.C., if these protests aren't so prolific and big and well-funded and with good signage and promotion. Isn't that interesting? 800-288-9227. Details next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, I do approve of this bumper music. I'm a big Kelly Clarkson fan. Thank you, Garrett. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What? I can have a soft side. I can like, isn't she from Burleson anyway? Before I get back in the news, Kelly Clarkson, by the way, great singer, great set of pipes. She actually developed them. I bet she had voice lessons before she got on. Won the first American Idol. They should have ended the program after that. How are you gonna have the same contest again just next year without Kelly Clarkson? And then now she does what I do. She hosts a talk show, and I'm here to tell you, whether you like daytime talk shows or not, she's really good at it. I am surprised. I did not expect that. Like Drew Barrymore never hosted a talk show in her life. She's just done drugs and movies, for the last 5 decades. And she gets an afternoon talk show. Not so good. I like her. I like her movies. I like her work. She's great in Poltergeist or 50 First Dates or whatever. Terrible talk show host. Sherry Shepard is another one. She couldn't even answer if the world was flat or round on The View one day. And she just strolls in with a 71 IQ, gets her own daytime talk show. Terrible at it. But Kelly Clarkson, super good at it. Dr. Phil, really good at it. And I know I have a Texas bias, but it's more than that. All right, we got a bunch of protests coming to the area. This is great. I really like this because the protests, I think, are hurting more than they're helping. It's also the way they do it and how they do it and the verbiage they use. This is pushing people away. I can just imagine if I remember what it's like to be an 18-year-old kid, just fresh into adulthood out of high school, and you go to college and you're trying to figure out, like, I don't even know what's going on in the world. What side am I on? Well, I'm not on the side of these goobers. I'm not on the side of these guys that make foam core signs and they go stand and block a street and they're griping about deportations of people who were here illegally and just all kinds of flying the flags of other countries. No, that's not real attractive to me. But for some people, man, this is their jam. This is their feeling of self-worth comes from this. There's a protest going on that started at noon today at University of North Texas. By the way, one of my source materials for this, not the only one, but one of my source materials for this, Dallas Observer, DallasObserver.com. They have a bunch of protest schedule dates that you need to know. How many of them are for right-wing causes? Oh, that's right, none. Now, not all of them are political. They talk about the protest against the Mavericks and whatnot. But they go and they spell out, hey, we had protests a couple weeks ago. We had protests last week. We got another protest coming up the 16th, so that'll be this Sunday, Dallas City Hall again. We're expecting Dallasites to go to City Hall to protest the immigration policy. So how dare you deport people who are here illegally? How dare you properly enforce the law the way it was written? Wait a second. I thought once Congress wrote a law that it was the executive branch's duty to follow every letter of that law and to not change anything, not pause spending or selectively enforce it. That's so weird because that's what we were just told about DOGE. That's what we were just told about all the spending that goes through USAID and the Department of Education. That's so weird. And now in this case, selective enforcement is a moral imperative. It's almost like there's a logical paradox in their worldview. But it doesn't end there. There's also a national day of protest that's happening February 17th. That would be Monday. And this is a national day of protest. Why? Because it's President's Day. And so when you say, well, don't you people have jobs? Well, a lot of these people are going to have the day off. They're going to go up there on Monday. The flyer that's being passed around says National Day of Protest, when President's Day, February 17th, 2025, at noon. Where? The White House or your state capitol / city hall / town hall. Here's the best part. Why? To resist fascism. Oh, that's right. The old resisting fascism. So I guess you can't go down there, Garrett, and be my man on the street guy, right? So I think Alex Stein is going to go down there from The Blaze. He's a mutual friend of ours. And I told him, look, don't give him a hard time and don't be your regular bombastic, embarrassing self and start insulting people or talking about big booty Latinas or whatever he does. Ask him just, hey, we're here. The whole purpose of this event here is to resist fascism, define fascism. And I would just love to hear the answers. Just go talk to 20 people out there and see what the answers are. See how different the answers are. See if it matches up with the actual definition of what fascism is. And we go over this ad nauseum on the show, the policies of fascism or whatnot. See if it matches up. That's going to be adorable. So I sent out a little message to Alex Stein, which I think he's going to go out there. I don't think Sarah Gonzalez is going to be able to go out there at that time because I think she'll be at work. It's easier on the weekends for us, but we have things to do. We have jobs. We have stuff going on. There's another one like White Settlement over on the edge of Tarrant County over there. They're supposed to be having a peaceful protest on February 16th for what? Keeping immigrant families together in White Settlement. Okay, well, look, if you're worried about them staying together, that's on them. Well, what if the parents get deported? Well, then take your kids with you. Is the moral imperative to follow the law or to keep the family together? Because if you don't like the law, then you should be rallying to change the law, not to selectively enforce the law, not to let some people jump the line and while other legal immigrants are going through, paying the fees, filling out the paperwork, doing it the right way, actually being screened. Is that what you're advocating for? Cheating? Jerking the system around? It's weird, though, because I go through and I look at all the protests here, and none of them are for gun rights. That's crazy. None of them are for smaller government or balancing the budget. That's disappointing. None of them are for school choice. Oh, that's so weird. I must admit, I don't get protesting a whole lot to begin with. I don't understand how when you look at the world around you and you think, well, I don't like this law or I don't like this way this law is being enforced. Why don't you address it through the political process? Why don't you call your representative or maybe try and get them primaried out in the next election cycle if you don't like what they're doing? Maybe make some phone calls. Maybe you can, start a radio show and try and influence your fellow voters from supporting the opposite of what's happening that you don't like. Never does it occur to me to go block traffic. Never does it occur to me. It's like, you know what'll win people over to my side if I make them late for their flight by blocking the entrance to Love Field. I got to tell you, I'm kind of enjoying this. I'm enjoying this because this is not winning people over. There's a lot of people, I think about 40% of the society is not paying attention like you and me are. And I think every time you block one of those dudes in traffic, every time they have to go through and they have to see a bunch of flags of foreign countries waved while people are chanting in a foreign language and cussing your society, I don't think that's having the effect that they hope it did. So keep protesting. Just let me know when they are. We'll send reporters out there. We'll get you some audio and we'll bring it back. How many of them really know what they're fighting when they say we're here to oppose fascism? How many of them really know what the policies of fascism are, how it was implemented, or what it looks like on an economic scale? How the fascists support pretty much everything, economically speaking, in the Democrat Party. Free child care. Oh, really? Universal health care. Oh, that sounds familiar. And what about all these social safety nets? Of course. Free education for everybody. That sounds great. Hello? Paid maternity leave? Windmill programs? Where did they all start? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. That's not exaggeration. The first state-sponsored windmill program in the modern era came from Germany when it was under the leadership of some guy named Hitler. Just throwing it out there. Germany got universal health care in 1941. Who was in charge then? Oh, yeah. Same guy. Oh, it's nice and evil. All right, coming up next, we have a recent survey showing 35% of small businesses are having hiring struggles. What can we do to improve that? We'll talk with Jason Taylor, an expert on startups, next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I am your host, James Parker. If you want to chime in at any time, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. My next guest is a regular on the James Show. He's the mastermind behind Code Launch, if you've heard him before. But he's also an expert on startups and small businesses. Jason Taylor, welcome back.
Thank you, James. Glad to be back.
Hey, did I already invite you to the Brian Kilmeade event? Did I just catch you on the air and sort of make it awkwardly, like pushing you into that?
I've heard it. I've heard it being advertised on WBAP maybe this morning. But yeah, please do tell me the details, James.
February 26th, 6 o'clock, Community Beer. It's right up the street from where I'm at right here, Commonwealth and 35. So, if you're going to be out and about around 6 o'clock or so, come on out. I'd love to see you at another one of our events.
Oh, well, check it out, my friend. Kilmeade event.
Yes.
Got it on my whiteboard.
February 26th. Make it happen. All right, let's talk about this survey. A recent survey showed 35% of small businesses are having hiring struggles. Now, I've kind of thought at any economy, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, about 35% of small businesses would have hiring struggles. That's been something that every small business I've worked at, they've all had hiring struggles. Is this more or less than usual?
Well, I think it's catching news because it seems like, with all we talk about in the economy and all the things we talk about economically, we're trying to improve, then things must be really bad. And so if things are really bad, then it should be easy to find people. But really, the American economy is surprisingly resilient and has survived a massive post-COVID inflation spike, and unemployment has actually dropped 3 months in a row and is now just at 4%. So in a low unemployment environment, that means there's not that big of a supply of potential workers. And small business finds it hard to compete with big business when competition over that workforce is fierce.
Right. So are we having a bigger shortfall with unskilled workers or the skilled workers?
Well, it's mostly in transportation and construction, and I think that it's probably not your professional services, white-collar, college-educated crowd we're talking about here in this survey. It's people that, that can fill great roles and great jobs and be great employees for a long time, but they're not big leadership opportunity type positions. And it's the kind of things that a small business would hire to when they want to expand and grow their footprint, add new products and services that they might want to offer in 2025. And a lot of them have probably gotten off the starting track in January, hoping to ride this wave of optimism. And I think that there's going to need to be some easing in the competition for employees until this really clears up.
Well, Jason Taylor, because of your association with Code Launch, y'all literally have a contest to find startups and put them through a tournament on getting them some funding here. Are you seeing any new innovative things from your startups that you work with to approach the hiring problem?
We had one in Houston called Seeker Pitch that was one of our competitors at the World Championship just last November here in Dallas, and we found them at our Houston event earlier in the year. And they're, an innovative new way for people looking for opportunities to find those opportunities, seekerpitch.com. And, so people should check that out. But we have people coming at us with solutions to all sorts of problems every day across the entire spectrum of business, entertainment, finance, whatever you can think of. So, it's a fun place to be, Code Launch, looking at startups and helping building their code.
This isn't where I expected us to be 20 years ago when I got my first job from a job board online. How much more efficient and quick and just a great use of resources it was versus printing out a resume and physically dropping it off and having to drive your butt to whatever potential job and like physically deal with it. You could just shoot them an email. And I thought this would so grease the gears here of hiring and firing and workplace. I can't believe we're having a struggle getting employers matched up with employees when we have the internet in front of us now.
Well, I think that if you use some of the tools out there as an employer, you definitely are not having a big problem, especially if you have enough money for some of the high-end tools like LinkedIn. LinkedIn recruiting seat, right, is about a $12,000-$15,000 per year license. So when you're talking about small business, you're really talking about pretty mature, medium, and upper-sized small business that can afford something like that. And that's for like one user, right, for a year.
Yikes.
And only one live job posting. It's fair, and it's because it works. But it helps you find people versus like putting out an ad and people then going, oh, I want that job and applying. It works it kind of flips it the other way around. It scours LinkedIn for people that meet your criteria, and then it invites them to apply. So, I've told my daughters, don't use this like front door knocking model of just sending in a resume to an email address. Find out who those people are, find them in real life, meet them face to face, shake their hand, look at their eyes, tell them that you find their career interesting, and ask them for advice on how to get into their career. And then from there, that's your front door, and then you work yourself in to the side, saying, hey, do you have any job openings there? I think it'd be a great candidate. So it's a totally different way of going at it if you're entry level. But, I think when DOGE and Trump really start to have an effect on these government workers, there could be a new supply out there. So there's hope coming down the pike for small business hiring managers.
All right. If there's tech startups who are interested in Code Launch, how do they get involved?
Just check out codelaunch.com. We're taking applications for all 3 events this year, starting this Sunday. And we do have a great event coming to Dallas, November 12th at Gillies, the Code Launch World Championship, which will bring Mexico's best finest startups, Canada's best startups, and the USA's best startup founders under one roof to compete for $50,000. And we'll hope to have you there again, my friend.
Heck yeah, I went last year. It was fantastic. I was super impressed. It looked like something off of TV. Maybe it'll be on Netflix soon, Jason.
That's our thought. We're going to keep at it until it is.
All right, good stuff. And I'll get you reminded when the Code Launch event comes closer, codelaunch.com, if you're interested in catching up with Jason and you got a startup. Coming up next, let's talk about the 14th Amendment. Because do you think the 14th Amendment supports anchor babies? I don't, but the Congresswoman for the district I'm in right now, Jasmine Crockett, thinks so. You'll hear both of our explanations next. 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. One of the many things that have flown off President Trump's desk here in the first 3 weeks of Trump 2.0 is the executive order ending birthright citizenship. Now, some people are saying it takes a constitutional amendment to change that. No, not really. It really just takes a court ruling to overturn that. And it's all predicated on the 14th Amendment, this whole idea of anchor babies. Now, for a quick review, you probably know this, but just know that there are some people who are just now discovering talk radio and hearing this from the other side for the first time. The point that we're digesting right here from the 14th Amendment is in the first section. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and that'll come up later, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, it got passed in 1868. It was written before that. But clearly, this is a Reconstruction Amendment, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. They were simply there to codify the changes that were happening because of the Civil War. Number one, how did we get rid of slavery? Well, we did that with the 13th Amendment. Okay, now that they're not slaves anymore, and they're not currently citizens as recognized by several other Supreme Court and, laws that are on the books, Supreme Court decisions and laws that are on the books. How do we make all of these former slaves now citizens? How do we word this in a way that will grant them all citizenship without accidentally catching other groups of people that we do not intend to be citizens? That's why the language is specific to this. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. So you have to be either born or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, they did that specifically because that would catch all the slaves that were born here, but it wouldn't catch, say, like diplomats. Like if you were the ambassador from France and you were living right outside of D.C., so you could, do your functional duties for the country of France as a citizen of France under the jurisdiction of France, but your wife got pregnant and had a baby, would that be an American citizen? No, not under this, because that baby has diplomatic immunity. It is not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So even though that person was born, it was not also subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, therefore not a citizen. That's why that's why I stressed the and. It didn't say all persons born or subject to the jurisdiction thereof, because that would count for diplomats that are here legally or illegal immigrants, people that are not supposed to be here, but they snuck across the border. They're still citizens of another country. They are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So we got that out of the way. So the two big things I want you to have stuck in your head before we review this audio is, number one, that it was absolutely, written specifically to address the issue of slavery. I mean, it's bookended on the 13th and the 15th Amendments were about slavery. I'm pretty sure the 14th was in there too. It wasn't about illegal immigrants and anchor babies, for the love of God. That wasn't an issue in 1868 that they were trying to remedy. So with that, I want you to take Jasmine Crockett's audio here and remember that she's a trained lawyer. She was a lawyer in practice for 10 years, civil rights activist, held a bunch of cases for Black Lives Matter activists. She is on a podcast of someone who is also a constitutional expert, supposedly. Her name is Kathleen Martinez. And listen to both of them just get it as wrong can be about the 14th Amendment.
But nevertheless, I was like, we gonna talk about this, and this gonna be so interesting. I just couldn't wait. And somehow, like everything else in this country, when it comes to a certain group of people, Black folk are at the center of it. So they said, oh, do you know the history of this particular amendment? That's what they asked the witnesses. Do you know what year this came about? They asked the Democratic witness, and he said it was in the 1860s. And then so the Republican member that asked him about it says 1868. So he says, okay.
1860s.
And, right, yeah. And he goes, do you know what was happening? And so he says, well, it was the end of the Civil War. He's like, yes, this was for the slaves. This was for the slaves. That's all our founders meant. So basically, they're going to...
Why are they saying no?
You can't make this up. Run the tape, y'all. Run the tape. said, nah, I'd be doggone. I didn't know how they were going to try to justify it, but they have decided
That
I guess that they're going to go into the courtrooms and say, now this was just for the
This
ones
was
that
for
we stole. This was not for the other ones. It was for the ones that we stole who labored and built this country. It wasn't for all these other people. Our founders never contemplated all these others. So really, we could go back. Give it back to the daggone Native Americans, and then we can't go back nowhere else. And let's see how y'all like
let's start over.
Because the colonizers, y'all the colonizers, but that's a whole other story.
I get
So
it. We're evil. I got it.
saying.
But they laugh at the idea that it was for the slaves. Oh no, they didn't say that. Yeah, go back, run the tape. They actually said that stupid thing. Well, no, it definitely was for the slaves. Who was it for? Was it for illegal Hondurans that have streamed across the Rio Grande? I don't think so. Who else would it be for? Who else were we having an issue with? It wasn't for the slaves. They just happened to get rolled up into this illegal immigration amendment. Come on. And then the lady next to her doesn't correct her. There's two other ladies on this panel who are supposedly constitutional experts, and they're both making the same mistake. But listen, remember that and earlier? What happens if you turn that into an or? Well, it changes the entirety of the amendment. Kathleen Martinez gets it wrong.
This is my life.
They're trying to argue the interpretation of the Constitution, where the 14th Amendment is very black and white.
It is
if
very
you're
clear.
born in the United States, you're subject to the jurisdiction of and citizenship.
Do you see that? She
of the United
snuck in the
States.
or.
There's
She
no-
snuck in the or. That does change the amendment. Because that means whether or not you're naturalized or you're a citizen, as long as you're here, as long as you're born here, it doesn't matter if you're subject to our jurisdiction or whatnot. See, that changes what the actual amendment says when you leave it as and. Here, she snuck it in there. I'll do it again.
jurisdiction of and citizenship of the United States.
Wait.
There's no United States. You're subject to
See,
the jurisdiction.
or.
Born in the United States, you're subject to the jurisdiction of and citizenship of the United States. There's no for exception for parents if you're undocumented.
Go to your college, ask for a refund. Your degree means nothing, lady. Your degree means absolutely nothing. You can look at the text. It's right here. There's an and in it. This is a constitutional law. You're talking to a congresswoman, and they're getting it that wrong. Do you think the 14th Amendment was meant for slaves or anchor babies? I can't believe so many people are getting this wrong. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back, all you beautiful Texans. You're listening to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I know. Good to see you, too. I appreciate the enthusiasm. My next guest, Connor Vassals, helps us keep an eye on what's going on politically speaking, and he's been a very busy guy. Welcome back to The James Show, Connor.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be back.
All right. So have you actually gone in and seen the limestone mine? Because as soon as that thing gets shut down, I think it needs to be a tourist spectacle as sort of, it could be a monument on government inefficiency for future generations to remember.
Yeah, I think that's a great little vacation to take during summer if you'd like. Go down to the mines. It's good for your lungs. It's a great area.
Yeah, I knew there could be big plaques on the wall, or maybe, I don't know, but this is the future, so a 3D hologram will explain to you, this is how we retired people in the federal government until 2025. Can you believe it?
Exactly. I mean, they're still using, it's beyond me that they're still using paper records in a limestone mine of all places in order to retire people. It's just, if anything, it's just testament to how ridiculously inefficient our government is. But hey, I'm not really surprised.
Well, I was surprised because I thought they would at least be up to the level of a speak and spell, like that we played with when we were kids, that old Texas Instrument toy. They're still on paper.
I mean, listen, they only have billions and billions of dollars worth of taxpayer revenue every single year. What do you expect them to do? Come on.
Yeah, but, look, I was hoping that, let me put it like this. Is there a private sector business that doesn't have a more efficient way to get rid of employees? I don't think so.
Well, that really begs the question then, regardless of the efficiency, regardless of the system in place, do they even want to be efficient? Do they even want to retire people at a pace that is reasonable? And considering they're still using these paper records, I don't think so.
No, and I love the way you word that, because they do not have any economic incentive for efficiencies like the private sector does. And that's not necessarily anything that they're doing wrong. That's just the nature of doing things via government instead of the private sector.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, that's literally the name of the game for any government throughout the world, whether you're in America, Canada, Germany, other countries. They all still have a huge component of their government that uses these inefficient systems like paper records. And in our case, it just so happens to be stuck at the bottom of a mine shaft somewhere.
I also love this idea. I'm thinking of Joy Reid. Well, you know what? In case you didn't hear this, or the person listening didn't hear us, they're thinking about threatening a government shutdown if we don't stop DOGE. And I do they not realize the paradox that they're talking about here?
Let me ask you this, because the Democrats are in the minority, so you have only so much leverage. Have you all essentially made it clear to Mike Johnson that until they allow you all to subpoena big balls and the normalized Indian hate guy, at least subpoena them or subpoena Elon Musk, no votes on the budget? No votes.
No, they're threatening us with a government shutdown. What's going on, Connor? Do they realize what they're saying?
At this point, I think they're just so deluded because they're so, they drunk the Kool-Aid, right? They've assumed and expected all these years that government is going to come to the rescue and provide X, Y, Z whenever they want. And now when someone's actually trying to put the proverbial feet to the fire and audit the government to see what inefficiencies they are, oh no, we can't have that because my social welfare program, which doesn't even work. It's just people living with rose-tinted glasses, but they are outright refusing to even entertain the idea of taking them off.
I'm totally enjoying this, but they've had 3 weeks. Can't they come up with a better argument than, well, we need to subpoena big balls and these other engineers because we don't know who has access to the sensitive information. Well, who had access to it yesterday? Did you know their name? Did you subpoena them? Did you get to question them? Do you know their background? Of course not. So, I think there's a little flaw in your logic here.
I think it's something even a little deeper than that. It's not that they don't know or they're not prepared. What if they did know, but they just tolerated it, right? I mean, everyone nowadays, right, they're up in arms. Oh, how dare you have this unelected billionaire or Elon Musk dictating how government efficiency will be. Well, what about Anthony Fauci? What about Bill Gates? What about George Soros? What about all these other people who have at one point and another, worked with politicians, with bureaucrats in order to sway their votes or affect public policy. Is this hypocrisy which, if they're in power, if they're the ones in the overall office, it's totally okay. But once opposition is in, oh no, this is a tyranny.
Right, but doesn't everybody see the logical paradox of them pretending to be concerned? Well, there's an unelected person who has access to the personal government databases. Yeah, that's who's had access the entire time the databases existed. I mean, the entirety, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only people who have accessed that thing are database administrators who are unelected. Like, not only is that not shocking, not only is that not a constitutional crisis, it's the most normal thing in the world, Connor.
Well, exactly. That is the status quo, right? And they're making it a big deal now because the person that they don't like, the person they've been calling Orange Hitler for the past how many months and years, is finally in power, and now they're having to put their money where their mouth is, because all the systems that they put in place that they've benefited from for all these years is now in the hands of someone they don't like, and now they're thinking, oh crap, now we have to deal with the reality of the situation.
When they are done, when DOGE is all said and done, because this is going to be a temporary blip on the radar in history, I want to know who Big Balls is. I want movies to be made of him. I want Justin Timberlake to play him in the movie, or someone cool. I want him to cut an album. I want him to run for office. As far as I'm concerned, he's the first big hero of 2025, Connor.
Amen, sir.
All right, where do we find your work outside of the James Show?
Thank you. You can find my work on Amazon. The State Knows Best, and I'm Joe Biden. I'm also on Twitter X at Connor_Vasile.
Wait, do your book titles slower, because I like both of them.
Oh, thank you. So I'm on Amazon. My first book is The State Knows Best. And the second one is I'm Joe Biden in his own words, because we all love Joe Biden. I miss him so much.
God, that's got to be so good. All right, thank you very much, Connor Vasile. I appreciate you being on the James Show again.
Thank you.
All right, that's fantastic stuff. Dude, the political news, I could just do the whole show on what's happening in just the political sphere. We got some other things to get to. Coming up next, the history of the penny. Because now that the penny's history, I'm going to give you the history of the penny. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Man, I can't even keep up with all the efficiencies, all the DOGE discoveries that are happening. You know, here's a program to get dirty comic books in the hand of some kid on the other side of the planet. You know, there's all kinds of weird things going on. You know, if you're working from home, you got to come in. Department of Education supposedly has pretty much been burned to the ground. Metaphorically speaking, don't call the Secret Service or anything. But there's quite a few interesting things that are kind of falling through the cracks, like the elimination of the penny. You know, we're having a major change to our currency, and this would be, in normal times, this would be a big headline. We would be having the discussion probably for a couple of days. You know, do we need the penny? Is the penny a good idea? Should we get rid of the penny? I mean, we've done this in talk radio in the past. Is it time to get rid of the penny? And now we actually are getting rid of the penny, and there's so many other bullets that are just flying by our head. Again, metaphorically speaking, don't say James is advocating mass shooting. So the penny's gone. Now, so many instances on this show, I am put in the position of trying to explain my economic backing, because it's one of the main reasons I consider myself an independent. I am not a Democrat for damn sure, and Republicans get so much wrong that I'm not comfortable calling myself a Republican either. Because first and foremost, when I look at statecraft, how we're supposed to not only adhere to the Constitution, but arrange society as a whole, I definitely fall in the school of Austrian economics. Now, if you don't know what that means, that's okay. It just means you and we all had a terrible education. I was taught economics in high school and college as if it was the law of the land. And what I was really taught was Keynesian economics. They didn't even let you know that there's other schools of thought, and then teach you the different schools of thought, and then let you judge what's better, you know, gold standard, fiat currency. We're all just taught blanket Keynesian economics as if it was law. Well, it's not. And so when you go do research in adulthood and you start reading other people's books and watching other videos and documentaries, you find out that, okay, well, I don't match up with what they want to do, or Team Red or Team Blue want to do. I'm an Austrian economist. What kind of economist are you? If you don't know, how do you know who to vote for? This is one of the things that I found confusing as an early voter. Like, I don't know enough about any of these guys to have a strong enough opinion to go stand in the street and hold a sign. But now that I do, it really guides so much of not just this show, but the way I view politics. Like, my worldview is very much governed by my economics. I think about maybe 80% of the problems that we have in this country have an economics-based solution. Not all of them. Not like abortion. There's not an economic solution to that. But the Mises Institute, it's one of the biggest think tanks for Austrian economics. They explain the history of the penny and why it's good to get rid of it. And I'm just sharing this with you. This is what an intelligent economic conversation sounds like from my worldview.
Last night, Trump ordered the government to stop minting new pennies. Many have been calling for this to happen for years, but the significance of the death of the penny can only really be understood if we look at the coin's history. The first coins called pennies came about in England during the Middle Ages. They were small silver coins worth about $1.50 in today's American money. For the vast majority of people, these silver pennies were the only coin they ever needed or interacted with. Silver itself was the money. These coins were simply a specific weight of silver that was convenient enough to become popular. The penny's value remained largely unchanged for centuries. And in the years after the U.S. seceded from Britain, the new federal government decided to use the same name for its smallest coin, representing 1/100th of a dollar. Importantly, the value of these American pennies was not based on the amount of metal in the coin, but by its fractional relationship with the dollar. At the time, the dollar was defined as a specific weight of silver, which meant the value of the penny was also tied to a specific amount of silver. But the penny was not made of silver, it was made of copper. So right from the jump, the American penny's value was separated from the value of its metal. Early on, that wasn't a pressing problem, as the small amount of copper used for the coin was significantly cheaper than the silver it represented. But that would quickly start to change as the U.S. government began messing with the value of money. First, the government tried to mandate specific fixed ratios of gold and silver, while also printing paper dollars that extended far beyond the supply of silver they represented to fund wars and other government programs. The attempted official gold-silver ratio messed up the dollar's tie to silver. Then, in 1900, the government switched and defined the dollar as a specific weight of gold, meaning the penny technically represented a tiny amount of gold. The government continued to mess with the value of money in various indirect ways until 1971, when Nixon ended the dollar's official definition as a specific weight of gold. Going forward, money's value would primarily be determined by government officials. And in the decades since, those officials have chosen to adopt a policy of permanent price inflation,
Boo.
meaning new dollars are created at a rate meant to cut money's value by 2% every year. In reality, though, the real loss has been closer to 4%. This system has been great for government officials and the politically connected rich who receive most of the new money first. But that's come at the expense of the rest of the American people, whose paychecks and savings continue to be devalued by the ongoing policy. The penny is the first monetary casualty in this march to worthless currency, but it certainly won't be the last.
Oh, do you understand that this may sound boring, and I know it's not as sexy as LGBT issues or abortion or gun rights. It's not as exciting as crime or illegal immigration, but this is the one that affects you more than anything else. It is because these policies and us ignoring these policies, every year you and I get a 4% pay cut because of our monetary system, because of the Federal Reserve, because of our fiat currency, because we run a big, fat, ugly deficit every year and we don't balance the budget and we're not efficient and we don't have a DOGE. You get a 4% pay cut every year because of this. Why aren't you more interested in this? If we should be blocking the streets for anything, it's for this, because it's just 4% this year, and then it's 4% next year, and then it's 4% next year, and then it's 4% next year, and you wonder why you can't get ahead, even though you're working more hours and you got a higher wage and you got a little bit of a promotion there. Why does it feel like you're always just treading water? This is why. This is why. If you've been in the same job for 5 years and you haven't had a raise, your standard of living has gone down by about 20%. And if we get this right, there will be no more 9% inflation. There will be no more eggs. The price of eggs is going to triple over the next 5 years. You know, before we got off of the old system, the purchasing power of your dollar stayed about the same for the first 140 years of this country. And now prices double every 20 years. You know, if the Fed was supposed to maintain the value of the currency, it couldn't have done a worse job. It's lost over 98% of the value of the dollar since it took over. I think that's a pretty big failure. I think we need to go back to the old system. And I don't know why this isn't a bigger deal. Or no, don't listen to me. Just take another 4% pay cut this year and next year and the year after that and the year after that. One day, maybe we'll wake up. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll talk to a relationship expert, Jennifer Stiers, getting you ready for Valentine's Day. That's just in 2 days, fellas. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Getting really hyped up for Valentine's Day, aren't you there, Garrett? Yeah, gentlemen, this is your warning. This is your 48-hour warning. I'm doing you a solid here. Valentine's Day is Friday. If you're not in possession of a present already, bro, you got to get on it. You can't be doing this the day of. And look, if you do it on the 15th, it's too late. And really, it's going to cost you a whole lot more. So I'm not very good in this department. So let's bring in a dating and relationship expert, Jennifer Stiers, coming back on the James Show. And listen, Valentine's Day, it's coming around. And I think most of the people that listen to WBAP at this point, Jennifer, we've already been through the relationship game before where the wife or girlfriend says, no, I really don't want anything. Don't fall for that. She wants something. But Jennifer, is there a hot item? Is there a trendy item? What are the ladies wanting for Valentine's this year?
Oh, that's a great question. It depends on your lady. The good news is I think as a trend overall, whether it's dating and somebody new that you're dating or somebody you've been with a while, the trend is towards simplicity and authenticity. So they don't need the expensive gift. They want something that's thoughtful. So that's something that, you've either put effort into, you've listened to her when she's been shopping or somewhere and see something she likes, and then you pick it up for her. It's not expensive. It's thoughtful. That's the key this year.
Okay. I am leaning toward the experience thing. I've done something that it's crazy that most people in Dallas probably haven't done this, but I got reservations for that restaurant that's at the top of Reunion Tower. I know. I've never been. I'm 40. I've been driving past this thing for like 47 years and never been. And so, look, that's not going to be cheap, but I'm in it for more the experience than something physical, like a physical gift that she can take away.
It's a great idea. Any experiential gifts are also in, mainly because it's spending time with your person, right? So that's always the goal, is that it's always about the time spent, especially if her love language is quality time. So, keep this in mind, guys, especially, and girls too. Give a gift based on somebody's love language, because
explain.
Explain. Yeah, here we go. So there's 5 love languages. If you've never read the book or taken the quiz, go online, Google it. It'll be fast. But there's basically a few love languages like quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch. Whatever somebody's love language is how you want to gift them. So if spending time together is the gift for them, that's what they love, then your gift should be something where you do something together like you're doing. If it's words of affirmation, it's leaving like love notes everywhere in her car and different little places. That would be the thoughtful gift of, how you feel about her and how much you love her. The acts of service would be, let me make you dinner, let me bring you breakfast in bed, your coffee. She did that anyway. But things like that where you're doing things for her or him that day. So give the gift of something that they would really want and value.
Well, why is this all, I don't want to say it's all one direction, but like people don't put nearly as much thought into what does the guy want for Valentine's Day?
So much harder too. I'm just being honest. Men are harder.
Is it harder, really? Because we are much simpler people.
You are much simpler people, but that's the thing. Number one, you're simple. Number two, if you ever want something, you go buy it yourself. So women have a hard time buying gifts. Cologne, lame. Same thing, though. What does your guy like to do? Like if you like to go play golf or you love baseball, tickets to his favorite baseball game, basketball game, golf, excursion, whatever it may be, do it. Do something for him.
What if what I asked for Valentine's you can't legally buy off the street? Yeah, so we're back to the experiential thing again. Look, all right, here. Maybe I'm too simple. You're the one with the lovability show. But I've always said if you're looking to get a gift for a guy, whether it's Christmas, birthday, Valentine's, whatever, what does he like to do? And then just go in that lane. If he likes to play golf, get him a sleeve of golf balls. If he likes to shoot guns, find out what gun he has and get him a box of bullets. Like it really is that easy.
Hey, you have great advice. I mean, those are great ideas. or a day if you know he likes to shoot and his love language is quality time, a day at the driving range together. Because you know you love shooting guns with your girl.
You know what? You just added a little bit to that. Thank you very much. That is a good addition to my initial idea. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your two avenues here for getting information out: the Lovability Show and the Lovey app. Do the show first.
Okay, so the Lovability Show is my podcast, and it is just all relationship-oriented dating. You know, everything changes every day, so I just keep up on the latest. And my app is actually called Lovability now. We redid the app, and now we're just combining it with the podcast, and it's called the Lovability app. And it's a matchmaking app. It's like new generation dating. Super cool, fun, curated matches. Nobody else is doing anything like it. So this is for the people that want a relationship and don't want to swipe.
And you're a local girl, so this is probably going to be kind of Dallas-centric or DFW-centric.
Right now it is. Yeah, we just launched in Dallas January 1st, so we'll be here a few months. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just launched January 1st.
Great people on the app.
All right, let me go ahead and ask a personal question. What did you ask for Valentine's Day?
You know what's funny? I'm not a Valentine's person. Like I'm on television really early Friday morning. I just want to rest, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to a Valentine's Day party because people want me to go there to promote the app. But I'm going to go do that. But I'm not a Valentine's celebrator. If a man, and I really mean it, if a man got me a card, I'd be happy. I don't want gifts. I don't want chocolate. I just want him to spend time with me and think of me. That's it.
Oh, my goodness. You are setting death traps for many men out there whose wives do not share your flippant attitude toward gifts. What did you ask for Valentine's Day? What would you like to get?
Absolutely nothing. We never do anything. Like we sometimes don't even go out to dinner. But
you don't want a new pair of red bottoms or some Kendra Scott or something?
I'm not that girl. No.
Nope. All right. Well,
no, but there are girls. Hey, there are girls like that. Yeah.
All right. Jennifer Stiers.
Like that.
You can find her on the Lovability Show and the Lovability app. Congratulations on the relaunch there. That was news to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, come back on the show and help me with relationship advice sometime in the future. I appreciate having you around.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Stiers again. Coming up next on the James Show, I have a couple of feedback emails that I'll try and squeeze in. And then also there's another report on a local train that's losing a bunch of money and they want to spend your money to prop it up. And they just can't stop at the bad ideas, can they? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Come back for tomorrow's show because I'm going to go in a little more detail on this train route. It loses $100,000 last year, and they're making a play for you to prop it up. It's the train that goes from here to Oklahoma City. That's really, is that what we need to spend millions of taxpayer dollars on? Anyway, there's not a whole lot of time to go through the whole thing now, and I have a much longer presentation. So that'll be on tomorrow's show. And then also there's another rash of teachers who are just a little too handsy with your kids. So I've got half of tomorrow's show already made up, and that's on top of whatever DOGE and whatnot's going to do. So please come back for that. Also, we're having a station event. KLIF, our sister station, is having Brian Kilmeade in for another visit on February 26th, 6 p.m. Community Beer. That's in Dallas. 35 in Commonwealth. Come on out. I'll be there. Brian Kilmeade will be there. I'm going to try and get Garrett to be there. Miss Parker will be there. Hi, Miss Parker. But I'm going to leave you today with some fun audio. There's a representative, Maxine Dexter, and she hates Trump so much, she had to say a dirty word. She's such a rebel.
I've been told I have 30 seconds. So I am going to tell you that we do have to, I don't swear in public very well, but we have to Trump.
You have to bleep him. That didn't come out. I don't think that's what you meant to say. We have to bleep Trump. Was that a Freudian slip? Was that another one of the Freudian slips like the erection montage? I think that was. I think they love the guy secretly. They have a crush on him.
Let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection.
His various cases of, he's got charges of inciting an erection.
Donald John Trump incited the erection.
They didn't like Donald Trump. They said he participated in an erection.
I think they secretly like him. Like when you were in fourth grade, and if you liked a girl, you would like punch her in the back and then run across the playground all out of breath. I think they really like him. I think that's much better than the song. These songs, man, just so cringy. You have another congressional representative, and it was at the same event where you heard Maxine Dexter profess to want to copulate with the president. Listen to this song. They've got lyrics written out. There's more than one person singing on it. There's a bunch of people you don't recognize on a stage in like suit and pantsuits and business attire in front of a crowd that doesn't know this song. And it's just so awkward and cringy. Like, which side are you on? Not on this side.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Not this one.
Tell me, which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight against DOGE. We'll fight Elon Musk. No Elon scab within our walls. We'll fight from dawn to dusk. Oh, which side are you on?
Could it be a little more upbeat? Why does it sound like they're working on a chain gang and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Are you on? Which side are you on?
Bro, this goes for like 2.5 minutes.
Coming for our unions. He wants us all to fail. He wants us to bow to.
Y'all couldn't like get a sample, like the Amen sample or the Apache sample or a drum line or something?
Are you on?
An acoustic guitar maybe?
Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on?
Whatever side you're on, it's not on me. And then the show that comes on before me, the Dan Bongino show, the producer for that show, local guy, Jim Verdi, he made just the perfect parody of that based on the idea of a new PBS show, the promo for it. Jim Verdi came up with this.
In the tradition of the public broadcasting system's legendary children's television like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
PBS brings you The Democrats.
We'll fight against DOGE. We'll fight Elon Musk.
Your kids will love these grown children acting just like them with new little chants.
We won't rest. We won't rest.
But this show has an edge no children's show has ever had before.
I say Trump.
We have to
Trump.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk. PBS's new children's show, The Democrats.
Trump's coming for our unions. He wants us all to fail.
Airing now until Elon cuts our funding.
All right. That's going to do it for my show today. If you need more James Show action, check out the podcast wherever you already listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, the Pie Chart app, or Spotify. I prefer the WBAP app, really, or WBAP.com, but I understand. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. This has been the James Show with me, James Parker, on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.